All right, everybody. Happy New Year. Today is January the 2nd, 2015. We're here with Tom Novak and Patrick Hammer to talk about cold and a couple of opportunities for snow. Gentlemen, take it away.
Hey, what's up with the sunglasses?
Well, why not, right? It's better than that boring backdrop I had. And everybody, if they want to see what Meyer lemons look like, here they are.
Although we can all assume, we can all assume, Bill, that everybody knows that you're not in the Twin Cities. Maybe we shouldn't assume that. This guy right now is in California, so that's why he's got the sunglasses.
Where it was a bone chilling 30 degrees this morning. So I need your sympathy.
Did they delay school? Oh no, school's out, of course. But yeah, maybe they would have had this been a school week.
Well, there was team coverage on the news.
By the way, speaking of school delays, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have some school delays around here next week.
Some frigid air heading in, no doubt about it. And by the way, it's going to hit, and it's going to hit quick, and that'll be Saturday night, so everybody needs to keep that in mind. Now, guys, we were talking about this earlier, but I've gotten many of comments on my social media pages that say, oh my God, a winter storm's heading in, 6 to 10 inches of snow, wow. And I have to kind of tone it down for people and say, no. That's not necessarily what a winter storm is. At least in my mind, a winter storm is when you get not only some snow, sometimes a lot of snow, but some snow, and maybe more importantly, especially in rural Minnesota or the rural country, blowing snow. And how quick does the wind happen? All of that, in my mind, plays a factor in what is a winter storm. And I get a funny feeling that Saturday is going to catch a lot of people off guard, especially those in rural Minnesota. We'll go from nothing to a lot of blowing snow within an hour or two period. So people in the metro area, you may not get impacted as much by this system this weekend, but remember, there's other people that live outside the metro.
There are? Okay.
There are.
Hey, TV consultants don't believe that. Everything's metro.
That's right. And that may be, Patrick, you bring up a good point there. The television, I don't want to say that they focus on the metro, but and they probably do, right? And maybe that's why some of the forecasts are a little bit more conservative and you don't hear as much hype because, quite frankly, the storms, especially winter storms, just don't impact a heavily populated area as much as it does rural Minnesota. Right?
I would say the media outlets here do a good job of covering as much of the state as we can. Having said that, a lot of the viewers are focused in the metro. I mean, you can't deny that. But, I think this is going to be a storm, like you said, Tom, that impacts outstate areas far more than metro areas. Having said that, we're still going to see snow here, but Saturday is going to be a relatively mild day, and Saturday night and Sunday will be a whole new can of worms, no doubt.
That's right. And now, I do have a graphic up, by the way, for you guys. And this is the quantitative precipitation forecast of QPF from one of our favorite models. I believe this is the NAM computer model. And the reason why I show this is that there is a strip of very heavy snow. You can see it right here that's going to fall from northern North Dakota through northern Minnesota. So if you live north of a line from Fargo to Duluth, you can probably expect a 6 to 10 inch snowfall over the next 24-hour period. You combine that with wind, we are talking blizzard conditions over northern North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Now, here in southeastern Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and western Wisconsin, you can see not much precipitation, only about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of liquid precip. You fluff that up in the snow, and you'd get maybe a 1 to 3 inch type snowfall. But again, it's not as much the snow with this storm as it is the wind and the plummeting temperatures that's going to catch people off guard, especially if they're out in rural areas.
And if there's any kind of, especially in eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, if there's any kind of a limited melt on Saturday, because our temperature could get close to freezing possibly, there's going to be a flash freeze because anything will freeze rapidly when that cold front moves through.
That's a good point, Patrick. What we're looking at now is the NAM computer model, because I think the NAM has really caught on to this storm now, and it's going to be a good model to watch here over the next 24 hours. But this is the future radar from the NAM computer model. And here we are going into this evening. You can see snow breaking out over North Dakota and northern Minnesota. And watch what happens. That snow continues to move east across northern Minnesota. But now I want you to focus on right here, this frame. This is Saturday evening. You can see a ribbon of snow, and this may be a quick hitting snow that could easily drop 1 to 2 inches of snow right across the Twin Cities metro, basically stretching southwest to northeast across the heart of Minnesota.
And what time is that? What time is it?
That's Saturday evening, Bill, at about 7 p.m. is what this frame is for.
Okay.
Okay, and then watch what happens. That snow fairly quickly moves through and continues to develop as it moves further east into Wisconsin. So with that being said,
so people are disappointed at that, it sounds like.
Well, that's because they were hoping for 6 to 10 inches of snow over the metro, which they're just not going to get. But again, I wouldn't be surprised, Patrick, and I think you'd probably agree, of a 1 to 2 inch snowfall, maybe even a few locations in and around the metro, a little bit more than that. And then perhaps a heavier snow, maybe 2 to 4 inches, as you head southeast of the Twin Cities in the Rochester and Eau Claire area.
Right. But then it's there's the chance that come early Sunday morning, we're going to go below zero. And even though on Monday and Tuesday we may get to 0 or 2, but there's a chance some places are below 0 from late Saturday night all the way through Wednesday.
Right, and with the snow is going to come the cold. So, and that's what Patrick's talking about. We're going to have a couple of days here where well below 0 at night, and then during the day we're going to struggle to reach 0. But that cold air, good news for snow lovers, by the way, that cold air does support at least the development of snow. Now, what you're looking at now is the travel impact graphic, hot off the press from Novak Weather. Actually, I created it yesterday, but it remains the same, I think, today. You can see over northeastern North Dakota, northern Minnesota, I'm pretty confident that a blizzard is going to hit up there over the next 24 hours, so be prepared. Those of you who are in rural areas, you won't be surprised, but I'm telling you, for you city slickers, if you've never been in northwestern Minnesota when there's a blizzard, that is something to behold.
Road trip time.
Oh my God! Yeah, you can barely see in front of the hood of your car. I've been through those situations before. It's unbelievable, and it is life-threatening, by the way. So just watch out as you head north and west traveling over the next 24 hours. But then I also think that there's going to be a fairly high impact snow, but even more importantly, wind over southeastern Minnesota and into Wisconsin, especially if the storm system happens to pick up a little bit more moisture than is expected. But no doubt, pretty much all of Minnesota and Wisconsin and northern Iowa should have some problems traveling over the next 24 to 36 hours.
Say, Tom, I think I checked the National Weather Service forecast for Monday night, and I think they're actually calling for heavy snow in the Twin Cities. Do you guys agree with that?
Hey, I agree. I think if this wave that's coming down, it's going to be focused in southern Minnesota, but the fact that the snow would be falling in some very cold air means it doesn't take a lot of moisture to produce, it's hard to say heavy because at that cold of a temperature, the snowflakes are going to be pretty small. But still, I could see the GFS model is cranking out like 4 to 5 inches of snow across southern Minnesota on Monday night into Tuesday. That may be a little much, but there'll be a high fluff factor, and I think that's our best chance of getting additional snow on the ground.
Yeah, Patrick is talking about the GFS model, and I have it up right now. And this is Monday afternoon. You can clearly see from a QPF standpoint, precipitation standpoint, that snow would be breaking out over western North Dakota Monday afternoon. Now, watch what happens as we head through time. This would be Monday evening around 10 o'clock p.m., and if you believe the GFS model, you would have a fairly strong clipper that would be located, a low-pressure system located near Sioux Falls Monday evening, and no doubt a band of moderate to maybe even heavy snow over the southern or two-thirds of Minnesota. And then, of course, that would stretch into Wisconsin and just basically move east-southeast through much of Wisconsin and northern Illinois as we head into Tuesday morning. So no doubt in my mind that that's going to be a system that we're going to need to watch. I hate saying heavy snow when we're so early in the game, because
Yeah.
think about it, Monday night, that's still, we're looking 3 nights, still that's 72 to 84 hours. I don't like to say heavy snowfall yet, but there's no doubt, like what Patrick said, with the cold air, the fluff factor being high, I could easily see 3 to 6 inch type snowfall as we head into that time period.
So you guys, it's starting to look like the pattern is what we had for most of last winter here in California. There's basically no precipitation forecast, for the next 10 days, and it sounds like you guys are going to be in the cold. Do you think this is going to be a repeat of last winter from here on out?
Personally, it's not going to get quite as cold here as it did during the January outbreak like last year, where I think we had one day we had a high of 12 below and an overnight low of 23, 24 below. I think we're into a cold weather pattern. It seems to moderate a little bit, maybe in day 10. One thing I don't see are any big precipitation events, outside of this Monday night thing. No big storms, just kind of a cold weather pattern. Very atypical and I think we can pretty much write off an El Nino. Granted, California had tremendous rainfall in December, which is what we normally think about when we hear El Nino. But that was not an El Nino. That was just basically some deep troughs coming through. And I haven't really seen an El Nino-like weather pattern at all. In fact, I'm sure you've heard the buzz a little bit about how now the second time in a couple of weeks there's a blizzard warning for Hawaii, the higher elevations. And to get snow at 11 to 14,000 feet, you need to have some cold air, right? Yep. That's not from a southern jet bringing in tropical moisture. That's cold air diving down.
The same kind of cold air that gives LA, Southern California, their snow too, right?
They're deep cutoff lows that get cut off and bring cold, and which is why we saw that snow in Southern California. My point being is that this is granted our December here has been gray and just kind of bleak. We've had very little snow in the month of December, and it wasn't necessarily that cold either. It was just kind of November was this like weird, cold, snowy stretch, and then December was just god-awful gray. I think it was the grayest December here in 20 years. Yeah. I don't see anything changing. I think we're going to be cold for a while. Absolutely.
Well, no, usually, Bill, Patrick and I agree on a lot of things. But this one I'm kind of disagreeing on because I think this cold spell that we're going into now is going to be short-lived.
Yeah.
And I do believe that mild air in the long run, and if you look over January, February, and into March, I think there are going to be more mild spells than there will be these massive cold Arctic outbreaks like last year, okay? Now, that to me is at least a decent signal of at least a weak El Nino. So whenever you get that mild Pacific air to push into the West Coast and then over the Rockies and then finally into the upper Midwest, that to me is at least a bit of a signal of an El Nino. And I do think we're in a it may not be a strong El Nino, but a weak El Nino. And I'm pretty confident that this winter is certainly not going to be like last winter where we had days, weeks of an Arctic outbreak.
Well,
I think a shot here and there.
Tom, you bring up a very good point. However, even in non-El Nino years, you can get Pacific energy to move through and warm you up and have a mild stretch, and it's just the way of the world, not necessarily linked to an El Nino. However, I do believe what you're saying is true. I don't think this cold air locks in like last year. I agree with Tom. There will be some milder stretches, and yeah, it could be linked to El Nino. It's just it's certainly last winter was just nuts. I mean, with all the cold that we got in January, look at all the snow we got in January. We got, 22 inches of snow? I don't think we're in that kind of weather pattern at all.
Yeah, and I wish if I had the figures, you guys, by the way, but let's not forget, okay, we had a very cold November, right? I don't have the figures again. But the December, I'm pretty
Might have been
confident that
warmer.
we were well above average as far as temperature in December.
What?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
question is it possible that December was actually warmer than November? Just like a couple years ago, March or April was actually cooler than that super warm March. Is that possible that December was warmer than November?
Again, I wish I had the figures. I'm caught off guard, and I apologize. But in our next video, whenever we do the next video, you guys, let's bring up those stats, and we'll see how mild of a December it was and how it compared to November, because it's just we've been like this so far, right? And my gut feeling is that we're on a milder pattern now in general, for the long run, and I mean January, February, and into early March.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with that. You know, I think it's so hard. It's almost impossible. It's maybe happened once or twice where December ended up being warmer than November on average.
That's about the most unlikely. That's about the most unlikely.
Right. However, I know the deviation from normal was well below in November and above in December, no doubt. I mean, I had pictures of golfers out here in Oakdale, Oak Marsh Golf Course, were playing golf the day after Christmas. They had 90 golfers out there. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, granted, it wasn't balmy, but there was no snow, and it was kind of drizzly, and it was crazy.
All right. Anything else?
That's it. Hey,
I like discussing these issues of the day and getting some different opinions. It's good stuff.
Well, great. We'll do this again.
Let's do it again.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys. Enjoy your lemons.
I will.